You are.
That's good?
Hmm?
That's good for you?
Hmm?
That's good for you?
What's my name?
Dr. Loden, what do you mean what's your name?
Okay, so listen. I know you said 15 minutes, but I have some graphs,
That's going
some
to take you
pictures.
over the 15?
So that's 4 or 5 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Please stand for the singing of the national song by Rebecca Queen Bee Webster.
God bless Anguilla, nurture and keep her, noble and beauteous she stands midst the sea. O land of the happy, a haven will make thee. Our lives and love we'll give unto thee. With hearts and souls we'll build a nation proud, strong and free. We'll overhold her dear to our hearts for eternity. Let truth and right a banner be. We'll march ever on. Let truth and right a banner be. We'll march ever on. Mighty will make her, long may she prosper. God grant her leaders wisdom and grace. May glory and honor ever attend her. Firm shall she stand throughout every age. With hearts and souls we'll build a nation proud, strong and free. We love her, hold her, dear to our hearts for eternity. Let truth and right her banner be. We'll march ever on. Let truth and right her banner be. We'll march ever on.
Please remain standing for the opening prayer by Dr. Michelle Quealy.
Let us pray. Father in heaven, God of our wisdom, we come before you, coaching you, knowing that you are the great I am, and knowing that we cannot do anything on our own. We have gathered here to discuss very important matters pertaining to our institution, the Anguilla Community College. We thank you, Lord, for bringing us this far, and we thank you that we can call upon you to take us even further. We ask, Lord, for your mighty hand to fall upon every one of us, those present, those absent, every student, every staff member, every faculty, individual, even the friends of the ACC. We pray, Lord, that you will grace us with your presence this evening. And we ask in a special way that you will direct the words, the thoughts, the actions of every one of us here, particularly each presenter. Hear us, O Lord, we pray, and let our cry come unto thee. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Quealy. Please be seated. Honorable Premier Dr. Ellis Webster, Honorable Minister of Social Development, Ms. Deanne Kentish-Rogers, Chairman of the Board of Governors of the Anguilla Community College, Dr. Ron Harrigan, and other board members, President of the Anguilla Community College, Dr. Kenneth Williams, Dean of Studies, Dr. Michelle Quealy, our distinguished panelists, moderators, distinguished guests, our students, our online audience who's tuning in. Pleasant good evening to all of you. And welcome to our town hall discussion as part of our Anguilla Community College Week activities. This evening's topic, the evolution of community colleges, ACC's contribution to national development, is very relevant, it is very timely, and I know we will have a very fruitful discussion. These three gentlemen have been involved in the college from almost the get-go for some of them. We've had a former student, a former president, and a former member of the board. So we look forward to the discussion and your participation in this evening's event. My other task is to introduce our moderators for this evening, Mrs. Twyla Richardson-Thomas and Mr. Neil Gumbs. Mrs. Twyla Richardson-Thomas has had her formal training in the fields of marketing and hospitality. Her passion for interior design and decor and event planning, coupled with her love for children, has eventually led her to utilize her eye for detail in a partnership event planning and design company, Confetti Dust Studio. As an entrepreneur, Mrs. Richardson-Thomas also owns and manages a children's boutique, Signature Tots Boutique, where she brings to the island a new lifestyle store for children up to age 16, offering trendy, unique clothing and accessories. Twyla is a former Miss Angola and has been assisting with pageant preparation for over 10 years. She is well experienced with working behind the scenes as well as in the capacity of a judge. She loves community building. As a wife and mother, she is a firm believer of creating work-life balance for her supportive husband and son. Mrs. Twyla Richardson-Thomas. Mr. Neil Gumbs is a passionate, motivated, and driven person whose life focuses on youth development. Mr. Gumbs is a history teacher by profession at the Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School, where he motivates and leads young people daily. More than simply a teacher, Mr. Gumbs is also a volunteer. He is currently the president of the Angola National Youth Council, ANYC, where he spearheads several youth development initiatives. He also currently sits on the board of the Anguilla Youth Business Foundation. He has also represented Anguilla regionally and internationally in his capacity as president of the ANYC, as well as throughout his sporting career. He is also currently the vice chair, members, and partnerships of the Caribbean Regional Youth Council, where his leadership extends to the region, uniting them on their goal of regional youth development. Mr. Neil Gumbs. Just before the moderators take over this evening's activity, I just want to remind everybody that we do have a few more events coming up before the week closes. Tomorrow, we will be painting the wall on the Ronald Webster Park, close to the volleyball court, and that is our community event. On Saturday, for those who are adventurous, we will be hiking from the Anguilla Community College through North Hill, through Catouche, ably led by our moderator, not Twyla, Mr. Neil Gumbs. And on Sunday, please join us, put on your dancing shoes and pink it up with us as we go to IWAS for our breast cancer awareness fundraiser. That will be from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. So we look forward to seeing you joining us throughout the rest of this week. I now turn over this evening to our very able moderators. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I adopt a protocol already established, and we'll get right into this evening's discussion. I'd like to read the bio for presenter number 1, who is Professor Delroy Loudon. Professor Delroy Loudon is the first president of the Angola Community College. His staying lasting from 2010 to 2016. He obtained his PhD from the University of Bristol and his postdoctoral training in epidemiology from Johns Hopkins University College. He has also had a number of academic appointments in the USA, Nigeria, UE, Mona, and Canada. Prior to coming to Anguilla, he served as professor and principal investigator in the Office of Research Development, Planning and Coordination at Lincoln University, Pennsylvania. He was the former director of the Epidemiology and Surveillance in New York. He was the vice president for research at the National League for Nursing in New York. He's the holder of several academic awards, including Fulbright Scholar, U.S. Bureau of Primary Healthcare Policy, Fellow, and Fellow Royal Society of Public Health, England. Tonight, Professor Loudon will set the tone of our discussion by giving us a historical background of the Angola Community College. Please let us show our appreciation by way of an applause.
Thank you for that very kind introduction. My task tonight is relatively straightforward, and that is to paint a broad canvas from whence we came and, in a sense, where we are today. So we began as a national college. In terms of the history of the organization, we started very simple prior to me getting here, and a number of persons were involved in building this college. Specifically, I think the consensus was that the time had come for Anguilla to have its own training institution. Precisely how it would look had not been clearly defined at that time, but the sense was that we should begin with something. At the same time, we were faced with a challenge, and the challenge was that terminus golf course and flags were going up guns and busters, and the question was, where are the resources going to come from, and how are we going to get the trained resources, not only to build, but to sustain a stable workforce. By the end of the early 20th century, the lack of tertiary education had become a very prominent issue in Anguilla. And the government of Anguilla decided that they should put in place an education policy document which came out in 2002 by the Anguilla United Front, and it was called Beyond Committed is Establishing a Community College to Provide for Tertiary Education in Anguilla. By 2003, the Bureau engaged in the consultant Bev Peters, well known in the Caribbean, and it was thought that a master plan should be prepared for education in Anguilla. And this master plan also required a needs assessment survey, which was done. And in fact, the master plan survey which was done by the Department of Statistics, and they produced a couple of reports that looked very closely on what were some of the needs of the island and what kind of workforce was needed. And most of the surveys at the time was people wanted to study, they didn't necessarily see themselves going abroad, but they wanted to have the opportunity to upgrade their skills and so forth. The master plan came in 2006, and it was decided that the time had come for the establishment of a comprehensive community college providing career, vocational, technical education and training, as well as paraprofessional programs, courses for professional upgrading, university-level studies, and continuing education for adults. So that was the broad canvas which came about at that particular point in time. February 2009 is probably one of the most important days in the history of the college. The Anguilla House of Assembly approved the legislation that brought the college into being. The bill was hardly contentious, with both sides of the House agreeing the opportunity to provide tertiary education opportunities in Anguilla was critical for the island's development. The passing of the act allowed for the appointment of the very first board of the college. And the gentleman to my right, Mr. Carlisle Rogers, was one of those early members. Rona Royden Richardson, Mrs. Brooks, Vanette Richardson was legal counsel, Mr. Elvet Hughes, former PS, Orit Proctor, Chris Richardson, who is sitting in the back there, Carlisle Rogers, I mentioned before, and Mrs. Bernice Critchler Earl from the Barbados Community College Institute. This is important because from the very beginning, it was agreed that we shouldn't reinvent the wheel, and Barbados Community College had worked closely as a consultant in establishing the college, and at the same time could provide some support for some of the early courses, and in fact had been doing so before it became a community college. And the final last person on the list was Mr. Van Burn Brooks, who was an architect, who is an architect. So we started off with a community college unit, and this community college unit was established to put the master plan in action and to lay the groundwork for the creation of the community college. Among its responsibilities, establishing a hospitality institute by administering the early training programs and courses. And Mrs. Dawn Reed had this task at the very beginning, and they formed a project steering committee, and she was appointed the project director with Bernice Edwards, who is here tonight at the back, and also executive assistant. And of course, Sharon Richardson was also appointed the hospital coordinator at the beginning. The Community College Development Unit closely worked with the Barbados Hospitality Institute to develop some of the early programs and the training that were required, plus of course providing guest lectures to provide some of the support necessary for some of the early programs, and also for marketing, familiarization with some of the needs of the island as it relates to hospitality studies. Among the courses offered in those early days, the Community College Development Unit, events planning, customer service, food and beverage preparation, food and beverage services, bartending, housekeeping, and front office skills. Energy conservation, plan maintenance. 2007 saw the Community College Seminar Program, which ran the tourism all season from August to October of that particular year. By the time the idea of the awareness of the program had grown significantly the previous year, the enrollment at the college was very significant at that particular time. 334% increase for the first year of the college. And so it was decided that it was time to move towards getting the formal college in place. And Professor Errol Morrison from UWI Mona, Jamaica, and the School of Education, he came and led the charge at that particular time. And in fact, they were the group that interviewed me for the job, including Carlisle, Mr. Rogers, at that particular point in time. So we were in the next stage of the college, which was to get the staff appointed. And one of the things I did at the time when I came in, Carla Harris was, of course, then Pascal. She was the registrar, and we brought her in, and she's still here today, happily. Mr. Bernard Watley was seconded from the library service to become Dean of Students, and in fact, he had a master's degree in educational administration and policy studies, and we thought it would be a good fit for us at the time. Then we had a number of firsts, the first installation of the first president, the Association of Caribbean Tertiary Institutions, ACTI, is a group of leaders of higher education in the English-speaking Caribbean, and they held their first meeting in 2014 in Anguilla at that particular point in time. And in fact, we at the same time formed the song was established, the school song, We Salute the ACC. That was also established at that point. Ms. Harris, as I said earlier, was former with UII, and she came on board. By 2011, full-time staff complement had been risen to 8, with additional part-time staff and lecturers and so forth. The board underwent some changes at this time. Vernon Richardson left, Mr. Elvet Hughes was replaced, so was Mr. Proctor, Chris Richardson, making the way for Mr. Porter, who then became the legal counsel on the board, and Yolan Richardson was the former principal of Albina Lakes at the time. And then Reverend Clifton Niles came on, and Mrs. Vanderpool Kubish, who is still here today on the board. Rona Richardson Royden and Mrs. Brooks retained their roles as chair and vice chair accordingly. Academically, we were still stretching our way to providing a strong offering of programs in hospitality, but also technology, natural sciences, humanities, and education. And people coming through at the time, Cape and so forth was also offered. Spanish, business management, sociology, among others, was offered. 2011 was a new era in the history of the ACC with the offering of the associate degree in business, as well as hospitality and tourism in partnership with the Council of Community Colleges of Jamaica. At the same time, the need for technical and vocational education became quite clear, and by 2012, Mr. Pickering, who is here tonight, was appointed the chairperson of the TVEC Council and various other members, and the president of the college became an ex officio member of the TVEC Council. One of the challenges in developing a new institution is where we're going to get the money from and from the funding. And funding is always going to be a problem. But nonetheless, we bit the bullet. I had talked to a colleague of mine who then was ambassador in South Africa for the British government. We were classmates at my own university in Bristol, Boating. And Dr. Boating was the front bench speaker in the House of Commons under Tony Blair. He was secretary to the Treasury. And he had just come back from South Africa. And at first I had asked for some funding, and they told me, oh, you're just new, you're too beginning, and we don't think we're going to have enough money to give you, and so forth. But I pressed along because when you get here, the strategy has to be resilience in the face of adversity. It has to be, and still to this day, resilience in the face of adversity is something that I believe in greatly. You can't take no for an answer, otherwise it shouldn't be in this business. So I pressed along, and I submitted the application. And having submitted the application, I vividly remember Tuesday morning, when His Excellency the Governor called me and said he had been instructed from London to award me some funds. And as you can see, the fund was 185,000. Not much, but not chicken feed either. At the same time, we signed an agreement with City and Guilds to provide some services in terms of City and Guilds being well known internationally for technical and vocational educational training. And we thought that would be a very good linkage for us. 2014 was yet another year for us, the first with the graduation of our students. Our first commencement speaker was Professor Arthur Richardson, and distinguished Anguillian, who was the dean of the UWI School of Education in Cave Hill. A distinguished group of persons attended, including, of course, the Chief Minister, Honorable Herbert Hughes at the time, and several other persons from Jamaica, Barbados, and the region came. 3 years later, at the first graduate ceremony, 9 students crossed the podium, proudly presenting their associate degree, 5 in business and 4 in hospitality study. In all, a total of 41 students received awards on that day, including 9 first who received their associate degree, 11 teachers received their postgraduate diploma in education, 13 with City of Gales qualification, construction trades, and other areas, and including geriatric care, which we were doing with Portmore Community College. And I must say here that the Council of Community College of Jamaica had visited Anguilla, and the Honorable Edison Beard was at that meeting. And as he inquired what courses were offered, he really insisted that we should try and get the geriatric program here. And happily, we were able to do that with the minister's intervention and support. Our young valedictorian at the time, Trixton Lamy, went on to finish his associate degree here, became valedictorian, and of course he went on to finish his bachelor's at UWI Mona in Jamaica, and got an honors, upper second class honors, which is really a very good class of degree to get. Linkages and collaborations. We work closely with UWI in the Country Conference series, and as you can see from the graphs there, both myself, Sharon, Reverend Niles, Mrs. Loudon, and several others took the opportunity to present our papers, and Carla, of course, too. Several of these papers were selected by UWI and came into a series as being of particular merit, and those went on there. Second graduation was 2017, and I can let you read that for yourselves there in that picture. Certificates and diploma continued, and so forth. Zenaida Cafe, a little known secret, exquisite cuisine, provided by the college. And it was really well done. And Fridays, people used to come in droves to pick up their packages and so on. And it was led by Karima. She don't like you to come into her kitchen, but she always does very well. And she continued to do well. What we formed was a hospitality advisory committee to advise the college as to where we are going with our programs, what are the quality of our programs, and how our program stack up as against other programs elsewhere. Because one of the little known secrets people on the street and in the community and elsewhere do not know, we always at the university level have an external examiner. We always bring an external examiner. And the idea of external examiner is to see how our students compare to the rest of body of students from their institution. And so what we did here, and Sharon was the initiator of this, Dr. Tony Henshaw came from University of Nevada and served many years with lots of local persons as our hospitality community advisor there, and did a wonderful job in allowing us to make sure that our quality of our programs. And then we got a designation came in from OECS at the time, Center for Excellence in Oenology and Mixology, by the OCS at that particular point in time. And we developed an agreement with CDB to borrow some money so that we could particularly build the college. I must tell you that this was a very tough time in Anguilla. And I want to stress something tonight because I think people don't sufficiently appreciate this in Anguilla. At the time we established the college, it was the time when the world since 1939-45 had experienced the greatest financial crisis in the history of banking and financing. Europe almost collapsed. If it wasn't for Obama and the rest who helped to bail out the car industry, the financial sector, Solomon Smith Barney collapsed, major financial corporation. It was a tough time. But we bit the bullet with the support of our board and moved forward steadfastly in this effort. At the same time, everyone kept saying, well, we're only a community college. I don't believe that at all. We moved forward. We were able to invite a distinguished Fulbright scholar. I am a Fulbright scholar before, so I wanted to get, and they said since the guy was coming from America, we couldn't get him because it had to go through the British. Well, I wrote to Foreign and Commonwealth Office in London and told them that we needed someone. And in fact, they financed it, and we had Professor Cunningham made 2 visits to come and serve at the community college. And he came, he taught courses in mathematics, and was of great support and continues to be to this particular day. And finally, I want to tell you something about events in mathematics, teacher education, and technology. We established the Community College Week in 2015, and we established an engagement with several community partners as we move forward. We then decided that it was time to do something with Albina Lake Community College and to make sure the BTEC qualification came on the islands at that particular point in time. So we decided to make the linkages. I am a firm believer in linkages and collaboration, and you shouldn't reinvent the wheel. And the institutions from which I came, even when I worked in Nigeria, I realized that that was the master with whom I worked was a professor of pathology named Buchanan, and he always said, Loudon, my dear boy, make your connections work. And they did. So we developed an articulation agreement with Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. I had noticed in the Chronicle of Higher Education that tertiary education in the United States were being asked to develop linkages abroad. So I wrote to the Department of Education, and they said Lincoln would be a sufficient partner. And we wrote the application, and we got funded at the time. And so a number of students came, although they were coming to the community college through Albina Lake, they came, and in fact, 3 of them went off to Lincoln University to study. And it created a bit of controversy, so I might as well tell you. Some people felt that everyone didn't get full scholarship, and I wasn't generous enough in my offer, and they wanted to sue me and saying, yeah, I was in vacation in London, and I got a letter saying that I hadn't given enough scholarships to everyone. And I'm saying, but half a loaf is better than no loaf. And what is going on here? Happily, we pursued the students who went there. And I'm happy to tell you that one of them, hopefully you will see her in tomorrow's Glean, thinking of Glean at Jamaica. I'm thinking of the Anguillian, Christelle Telemac, graduated with cum laude honors in biology, Lincoln University, Pennsylvania. She worked well with me, and I had some funding left on one of my grants, so she went to Fox Chase Cancer Center, did her summer internship there, and was able to be paid. She finished her internship. She's back here now. She's been awarded scholarship, Fox Chase Cancer Center, through the African and Caribbean Cancer Consortium, and she will be going back to do her MPH in public health. So the other 2 should be graduating in December, other things being equal. So that's one of the linkages and collaboration, and that's worthwhile. Oh, so you could be able to see the picture there, see the distinguished president there to your left, and Mr. Rodney Ray hiding between, taking a deep breath, and myself and the young Christelle Richardson, and some other important persons. And that's why I keep telling you all as I speak about linkages and collaboration. This young man here, we used to have games evening at the college, playing chess, playing dominoes, playing all kind of games, tennis and so forth. And this young lady you see graduating there, her father came to the college and helped to teach chess to the college. Every Saturday evening, he was there teaching our young people's chess. I'm meeting him for the first time, but you see how the connection worked later on. It paid dividends when his daughter applied, we were able to get her a place, and he's a proud graduate of this state again. So linkages does play an important part. Finally, I want to tell you about the need for legacy and endowment and contribution. Giving, all of us deserve to give, and we've given, and we need to give more. I have long realized in recent years that I will not be taking the checkbook in my casket. And even if I take it, I certainly won't be cashing it. Long realized that. I mean that sincerely. And so to that extent, I encourage giving. The first scholarship here, Lillian Richardson Endowment Fund, established at the college, that Mrs. Loudon's mom from Sandy Ground. She used to make cakes and tarts and so forth. So we established at the college a scholarship for her, for the student with the best grade in baking. And we have a scholarship in place for her. So that's one of the first scholarships. Teacher Nooney's scholarship came from Mrs. Royden Richardson. And many of you know Teacher Nooney. She was a teacher, and it's early childhood education this fund goes to for primary education. I also, with my brothers, poured some money in for Ermine Loudon and Melville Robinson Loudon Scholarship. Many of you from time to time, as I'm greeted by persons, they say, "How are you, Professor?" And I say to them, "The Lord has been kind to this carpenter's child." I mean it all sincerely, because my old man was a carpenter. And I wanted to provide some funding for technical vocational education. So we put about 10,000 in the fund. It's gone down now. I need to top it up again. Carla hasn't sent me the letter, so that's my excuse. But technical and vocational education. Tom Wright was an American gentleman who did a lot to encourage people to go to Cobleskill to study in the States and so forth, and including Madam Chair, Rona Royden Richardson. And his wife came one day down, to the building, and she asked me to come downstairs, and she counted out the 5,000 EC dollars in $100 bills, and said she wanted to establish this for her husband. So we have the Tom Wright Scholarship there. I must tell you that there is another one which I've not listed, and that's for deliberately. When I left the college, I wanted to give some money for faculty enhancement and faculty development. But I want to get the tax write-off in giving this money. Because Uncle Sam taxed me greatly. He taxed the premier too, so the premier knows. So what I did, I gave the fund through APNI, Anguilla Progressive Association of New York, so they charge a small fee, but they brought the money down. I think we have about 15,000 US dollars there, and I just filed my tax with the extension. I wanted to go up to 25,000. We're going to establish this fund with 25,000 to help faculty development, faculty growth and development, because the college can't do everything. It doesn't have the money to do everything. So we are going to do that. And we had some funding from the Chamber of Commerce, and we established a baccalaureate associate degree program, and they gave us a lot of money. APNI also put some money in place for geriatric care. Before, just want to tell you, those of you who are so unwise as not to have a copy of this book in your possession, must do. Because all the things I've talked to you about tonight are all here. None of it is new at all. So please make sure you get a copy for your record. It's my contribution to ACC, Our Early Years, a story to tell, a nation to inform. This is also a book we published during my period of time here, and some of the funding of this book is just come out in copyright. We're going to have a make available. One of the remarkable things we did very early in our outreach, so you see, we had a lecture held at Paradise Cove. Again, it's in the book. If I ask you who is the name of Henrietta Lacks, very few of you can tell me who she was and so on, and rightly so. But it's a remarkable African-American woman. Anybody who can know anything about cancer knows that her cells is in every single laboratory doing work on cancer and pelvic research in the English-speaking, or for that matter, the world. HeLa cells. Any student in biology will tell you right through HeLa cells. And we held one of the early lectures here at Paradise Cove with 123 people coming to the first lecture at that particular point in time. So I hope, ladies and gentlemen, you will see that in our early years, we haven't been idle. I wanted to show you very quickly I want to show you a couple of pictures.
Something
I'm trying to get you a couple of pictures. One of the things about the contribution community colleges make to islands such as Anguilla is not in terms of the courses we teach and the students who pass through, but the expertise of the faculty become available to the government. You can call up if you have a good economist and you're developing a model or writing something to IMF or the World Bank or the Eastern Caribbean, you can call up on faculty members to help you. There's a new government in power in Anguilla, and I'm looking forward to working with them and bringing my skills in epidemiology and biostatistics to help to get some of the things going and use those linkage and collaboration, because we can leapfrog our way forward. Stop feeling sorry for ourselves and believing that we can't do this, and nothing goes right. I wanted to show you a couple of quick pictures.
Cherish the rock, it is your true foundation. Cherish the rock, on this we build our nation.
They're not coming well. So this is a picture of Miss Dawn Reed and Sharon during the community college unit days.
Bernice as well. Bernice Edwards as well.
And Bernice Edwards as well, yes.
Cherish the rock, on this we build our nation. Cherish the rock, even though we've been wanderers, victims of plunderers, brought our home warriors.
That's the first word of
stood
the
up
college.
for our land. To lead us on, still leads us on. He leads us on, God leads us on. Develop brand new and
Some of these pictures are installation pictures.
today. Develop brand new and Anguilla today.
That's it. Okay, so one of the things we did with the Chamber of Commerce was to establish a Starry Night where we would sell tickets to raise funds through golfing and other tournaments for the college. And that's how we raise some of the funds necessary. Remarkable in many respects. Time around this activity is taking place. What's remarkable in two other aspects. One is that on the 29th of October this year, this fledgling new institution, created in a time of great economic disparity and adversity, will be celebrating its first graduation group of students.
Cannot speak. If you shine a little light.
She worked really hard to put this
I've heard up there the streets made of gold. And when you get there,
Sorry, that's it.
I believe.
And that was one of the funds we received from the Chamber of Commerce and Industry at the time. Mr. Keatley Lake was then the president of the Chamber of Commerce for funding for the college.
With your heart on.
These are some pictures of some board
Be
members.
the change you wanna see. If you lay down your life for love, so some.
And these Gulf gentlemen came all the way from St. Martin and elsewhere to come and play in Anguilla over the weekend so we could raise the fund at that particular point in time. Thank you, Garth. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience in listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Loudon. Our second presenter is Mr. Junior Neville Hamilton, better known as Hemi. Mr. Junior Neville Hamilton is a Navitian by birth. He migrated to Angola in May 1986 as a police officer of the Royal Angola Police Force. During his service as a police officer, he served in various departments such as Beat and Patrol, Traffic Department, Fire Department, and Special Services Unit branch, during which time he received the Officer of the Month Award for Extended Service and a Certificate of Merit for saving the life of a tourist during August Thursday celebration. He was transferred to Her Majesty's Prison as Assistant Superintendent in January of 1994, and throughout his tenure, he conducted numerous trainings for prison officers within the overseas territories and other Caribbean countries. He received certification as a control and restraint instructor and assisted and conducted several control and resistance courses. He received his Advanced Prison Management Training certificate via Crown Agent in England in 1998. Other related appointments throughout his tenure include promotion to the rank of Deputy Superintendent in 2008, and Second Lieutenant and Commanding Officer, Lieutenant and Captain of the Cadet Corps. Mr. Hamilton obtained an associate degree in Human Resource Management at the Anguilla Community College in 2017. That same year, he established his family business named J&H Professional Training Institute. This business focuses on human resource development by providing a wide range of professional training to a range of businesses. Mr. Hamilton is married and has 6 children. He enjoys cooking, baking, and reading a good book. He loves the game of cricket, and he is an ardent fan of the Anguilla Community College and is always willing to support its activities. Tonight, he will speak to us on the topic, From Then to Now, ACC's Contribution to Angola's Economic and Social Development. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Neville Hamilton.
Good night, everyone. I would like to adopt the protocol earlier established. To be honest, it's my first time in a position like this, and coming behind Professor Loudon is quite intimidating. But I want to give you a bird's eye view of my perspective of the topic tonight, from then to now, ACC's contribution to Anguilla economic and social development. In certain circles, community college are looked down upon. Some believe a community college degree is somehow less valuable than one earned at a traditional four-year college or university. Many believe, however, that community colleges are the cornerstone of a higher education. Jason R. Abel and Richard Diaz conclude in their research how colleges and universities can help their local economy, and I quote, "Policymakers are increasingly viewing colleges as important engines of growth for their local areas. In addition to having direct economic impacts, these institutions help to raise the skill of areas' workforce, which is the human capital, and they do this in two ways. First, by educating potential workers, then increasing the supply of human capital in a region. Perhaps less obviously, these schools can also raise the region's demand for human capital by helping local businesses create jobs for skilled workers." End of quote. The broad remit of colleges includes many factors, all associated with creation and dissemination of knowledge and skills. This supply of knowledge and intellectual resources have considerable impact on our economy, namely through one, supporting economic growth and national prosperity by generating human and social capital to teaching and learning activities, enriching society through broader community service activities. The significance of the Anguilla Community College is right in its name, community. The Anguilla Community College has, since 2006-2008, and will continue to have a critical role to play in addressing the island's greatest goals, namely workforce development, local economy development, technical and vocational training, human capital formation, low-cost gateway to higher education and community service. Permit me to share some of the contributions made by the Anguilla Community College to the economic and social development in this nation. Supporting productive growth, ACC plays a key role in supporting productive growth, which is a primary driver to improve living standards over time. Most economists and policymakers know that people who complete a college degree tend to earn more than people who have not attended college. Yet, they often overlook the fact that these benefits extend beyond individual workers. The college earning advantage also leads to greater economic activities, flowing prosperity at the national level. Highly educated households spend much more on a local economy than their less educated peers. It is not highly it is not that highly educated households concentrate on a higher share, it is not that highly educated households concentrate a higher share of their spending on local goods and services, but their gross spending power is much greater than high school graduates. For the past 12 years, individuals have been able to realize this dream of a better way of life for their families, which continue to impact the economy as well. Enhancing skills training. Skills training has an immensely positive impact on the wider economy. A well-trained, high-skilled workforce is better prepared for the challenges and opportunities of the modern workplace. Staff with the high expertise work more efficiently and confidently than those struggling to keep up with the changing demands of their jobs. Ultimately, the ACC goal is to ensure that there is a skilled workforce which will increase productivity, boost output, and continue to propel growth in a wider community. That is why the confluence between the college, the hotel industry, education department, the Department of Tourism, technical workers is vital to and is essential to the development of a better workforce. The BTEC program being offered to secondary students is a step in the right direction. Low-cost gateway to higher education. Since its development back in 2008, the Anguilla Community College aimed to provide affordable education for those who are interested in improving their educational status. The government made it necessary for persons living in Anguilla to pursue their degree by offering partly funded scholarship for those who are successful with the application to the Anguilla Community College. The Anguilla Community College has contributed significantly by developing the local workforce, improving on the performances of local individuals who can then impact their workplaces. The Anguilla Community College minimized the costs for hundreds of students by affording them the opportunity to stay at home while improving themselves, eliminating the costs of airfare, accommodation, food, clothing, and other necessary expenses, coupled with the emotional impact associated with family and friends. During my 10 years as a student, I have benefited from a partial scholarship granted by the government of Angola towards my associate degree in business. This, I find, is an advantage to the individual who would be able to improve his or her qualification being at home and receiving an affordable, high-quality education. Additionally, for the working class, the program runs from 5 to 9 p.m. Monday to Friday. Notwithstanding the interaction among participants, students, and facilitators alike are priceless as individuals share practical experience which are invaluable to the learning experience. The Anguillan Community College has made its impact to the social development of the Anguilla society. The college has partnered with various institutions to assist with the development of individuals, improving their offering and helping them to make meaningful contribution to the industry that they are part of or preparing them for employment. Just to name a few, the Job Link-Up program delivered by the Department of Youth and Culture, providing assistance to business places, providing training for their staff, and some of those businesses, the Health Authority, the Education Department, the hotel industry, and skills program assisted by the various technicians. While it is not possible to quantify the scale of benefits generated by community service activities, it is apparent that there are many and varied ways that ACC contributes through community services. Community service building, hosting community forums, events, and festivals, and student-led community activities. If you look at community services, as a result of the requirement of the business program to initiate a community project, I was able to reestablish the Angola Cadet Corps. The Angola Cadet Corps has made its impact and will continue to do so. And it's now going into its 5th year next year in 2021. The organization focuses on developing secondary students to becoming a better individual. The Student Council, the establishment of the Student Council is an opportunity for students to voice their concerns, an opportunity for students to demonstrate their leadership skills, and it is vital that now students at the ACC, that they themselves avail themselves so that they can, experience what it is to lead and to be a part of such a body. During my time there, I was able to be a part of the Student Council, working with one of the most effective teams that I would have experienced. The group that I had to work with, they were very enthusiastic. They were willing to go beyond, the ordinary to accomplish. A matter of fact, we planned our own graduation, and we were able to raise our own funds, and we dream about what our graduation event would have been, and we were able to plan it, raise funds for it, and deliver the package. And that brings some sort of satisfaction to a student who, you can look back and see the group work and the teamwork that we were successful. This is what a local college offers, the opportunity to interact with individuals who bring a variety of skills to a team working together to achieve a particular goal. This experience lasts a lifetime. From conception to realization, the program delivered at the ACC, the Angola Community College, can be used as a roadmap, directing each individual to where they want to be. The information delivered at the Anguilla Community College is relevant to a society's development. My involvement at the college inspired me to create my own business, and since the formation, I have impacted several business places with staff development training. This experience is priceless. It is self-fulfilling, being able to impact others and to experience the gratitude being expressed by those you serve. The social evening at the college, another initiative that was organized by the Student Council to invite members of the community to interact with the college in a relaxed and friendly environment. This initiative has created an opportunity for individuals to receive a scholarship and has represented themselves well, making the college proud, and to have make the college proud to have invested in such an initiative. In concluding, knowledge really is power. But it's not just about formal academic qualification. Broad employability skills help graduates give employers precisely what they need. Technologically minded workers who are flexible, organized, and resourceful. Additionally, individuals are faced with a high competitive job market in which their qualification might not be enough to secure the kind of work they desire. As the economy moves further forward, competency-based recruitment with the focus of skill and experience over pure academics, graduates and an established professional must be armed with the tools they need to find and to succeed at work. This speaks to the relevance of the ACC. The Anguilla Community College has a wide-ranging, proven influence on the economy. Its conference with businesses provides commercial value in innovation, while academic instruction and skills training help individuals and organizations to have the tools to succeed in a knowledge-based economy. The Anguillan economy demands for college graduates is increasing, and so too is the caliber of education they require in the 21st century knowledge economy. The Anguilla Community College will continue to play an important role in meeting further skills demand and ensuring a strong, growing stock of intellectual capital is made available for the increasing high-skilled labor force. Gratitude is extended to all those who commit themselves to ensuring the advancement of the quality of intellectual capital for the hours spent in preparation, delivery, mentorship, and assessment. The college is not just a building, but resource personnel blending the experiences and skills, saturating those they come into contact with, and leaving a lifelong legacy. Most fundamentally, we must not lose sight of the fact that access to ACC improves lives. It enhances self-knowledge, employment, opportunity, and promotes civic participation. I thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Hamilton. Our final presenter for this evening opts to keep his bio quite simple. He is Mr. Carlisle Rogers, a local lawyer. He will present on the topic 2020 and beyond, the relevance of ACC to Anguilla's future.
Thank you very much, Twyla. Good evening. I begin by adopting the protocol already established and thank the Anguilla Community College ACC hearing, especially Dr. Quille, for the invitation to speak briefly at this forum. I congratulate you, the president, and the entire ACC family on this college week, and wish you all much continued success. In this age of uncertainty, not only in terms of a global pandemic, but also Anguilla's evolving relationship with the United Kingdom, especially in light of Brexit, it behooves all Anguillians to take stock of what the future holds for our political, social, economic, and constitutional development, which will determine the future of this rock, which we all call home. It is against this backdrop of changing dynamics that is quite fitting to assess the ACC's role in Angola's future and its relevance, if any, thereto. I say, of course, that the ACC is relevant to Angola's future, and thus the questions become how, why, and in what way, amongst others. It is to these questions that I shall direct these brief remarks. It is trite to say that education is central to Angola's and any country's overall development. History has proven that point, so it is not up for debate. The ACC is our own, homegrown, highest institution of higher learning, and thus occupies a special place in our educational system. It is therefore essential to Angola's development and relevant to its future. However, I mean education in the holistic sense, covering both the academic and the trade professions, where the focus is on entrepreneurship, the creative industries, and out-of-the-box thinking, while appreciating the ageless, high ethical and moral principles which are part of the Anguillan experience. I submit that in this age of the unknown, the proper development of both academic and trade professions takes on an urgency hitherto not addressed by the ACC or any other academic institution locally. The ACC must seek to strive as an incubator for ideas that don't fit the norm of a traditional institution of higher education. It must be a laboratory of experimentation and thinking that seeks to harness the unbridled, untapped energy of the esoteric student, even if he or she is being guided along the traditional course or exam-driven route. A community college is by definition much more suited to accept and develop the non-traditional student who can't or won't be pigeonholed than is a traditional university. The ACC must always be cognizant of this, especially at the entry level, and not refuse to accept a student who doesn't fit the entry criteria, but who may bring something to the institution worth making an exception for. If, as some say, global travel may be disrupted periodically over the next decades, even after COVID-19 subsides, due to future pandemics, then the tourism and travel industry as we know it may never recover permanently to pre-December 2019 levels. That, of course, would mean a shift in the structure of our tourism industry and product development. Government would obviously have to lead the way in charting the new course for Angola's development. But as an academic institution, the ACC will be called upon to assist in creating the new economic paradigm and normal for Angola. The ACC cannot stand astride expecting all solutions to come from politicians, but must understand and be called upon to put its academic teachings into practical solutions. I am very much pleased by the survival video series produced recently by the ACC, showing how locals can survive this period of enforced closure of the tourism industry due to COVID-19. The video on how one can build a fish pot was particularly good and goes to the heart of what I seek to convey. The ACC is not out up there, above us, or out there for the good, the great, and the brightest. Instead, it is here with us, by us, amongst us, striving to help us achieve that which our talents and our desires design us to be able to achieve. This at all times must be the ethos of the ACC, as it is not a university, it is a community college, where the greater of those two words is community, not college. It is designed to serve the needs of the community as they are at any point in time, and rightfully so, I would submit. As a community college, the ACC has a much broader mandate than, say, the University of the West Indies, which is, with the greatest of respect, still mainland academic institution at least as it currently functions locally. The ACC is thus tasked with upskilling those who may have fallen through the cracks academically or trade profession-wise, or foreigners who have migrated from abroad who also face challenges in their education earlier in their lives. It must be remembered that prior to 1986, Anguilla had a common entrance examination system, and thus there are still persons amongst us who never had an opportunity to attend secondary school. The ACC serves as a conduit whereby these persons can take high school level courses, even at this stage of their lives, to which they were previously not exposed in order to advance themselves academically and professionally. These persons would include those imprisoned, and this would assist in the rehabilitation of offenders, thus increasing the chances of their successful reintegration into society post-release and reducing rates of recidivism. Anyone who resides in Anguilla becomes part of the island's social fabric, but also has a role to play in its overall development. To fail to acknowledge this is to condemn some to a life of poverty, create social division and ghettos in our community, fail to harness the power of immigrant populations, and stifle Anguilla's growth potential. The ACC therefore has to serve as a bridge between the untapped potential of all those willing to advance themselves and the future prosperous and stable society which we hope to create. The ACC has a role to play in the social integration of the community, especially with regards to immigrant populations where English is not the native tongue, so as not to allow for the development of communities separate, distinct, and apart from the rest of the Anguillan society. I am not aware if the course titled What It Means to be Anguillan is still offered at the ACC, but if it isn't, it ought to be reinstated. And if it is still being taught, it ought to be updated to ensure that a firm grounding in Anguilla's history, culture, norms, and respect of the rock is inculcated in all those who were born and who have migrated to our shores. While one ought to remember from whence one came, it is important, especially in a small community, for immigrant populations to assimilate with the broader Anguillan community and respect the host country so that social cohesion exists. Through its varied class offerings, flexible entry requirements, and an approach which meets the potential student where he or she is academically, trade profession-wise, and takes that student to where he or she wishes to go eventually, the ACC is ideally suited to serve as that bridge between those two conditions and act as the glue that binds us together. To lift a quote from the Jamaican coat of arms, out of many, one people, or in the American context, e pluribus unum. Thus, all who call Anguilla home must first and foremost see themselves as Anguillan, even if their origins were from elsewhere. To do otherwise would inevitably lead to social friction and the creation of a nativist versus immigrant dynamic, which is currently on display in parts of the United States, and one could easily argue contributed to the political rise of Donald Trump. Perhaps successful completion of this course, that is, what it means to be an Anguillan, could become a requirement for naturalization, and the ACC would thus assist would thus assist in ensuring the smooth integration of others into the fabric of the Anguillan community. The ACC can assist with achieving this social harmony through ensuring that throughout its academic programs, a proper grounding in the geographical and cultural context in which it exists must be inculcated in addition to the broader regional and international dimensions of modern education. If global travel is indeed disrupted, as mentioned before, whether temporarily on a regular basis, then the need for more home-based education and online courses will become paramount. While online or distant learning courses existed even before COVID-19, they may become the norm. However, this will never remove totally the need for physical student interaction. The ACC thus has a good opportunity to serve the increasing numbers of students who will not be able to or wish to travel abroad when suitable academic courses can be accessed here within a still COVID-19 free environment. If this is the new normal of the world, and by extension Anguilla, then the ACC is indeed essential to Angola's future. Further home-based businesses, employees working from home and online learning will serve to spur even more new business ventures which will require proper management skill sets. No matter whether a business is block or mortar or online, the foundations of management remain the same. The ACC, being so close to the ground locally, would be ideally suited to assist these entrepreneurs through its class offerings, especially in the areas of basic bookkeeping and accounting and marketing, whether online or through traditional media. Perhaps some of these entrepreneurs may be able to take advantage of Angola's special economic zones legislation, especially if their businesses mean that they themselves could become, in effect, digital nomads. Again, the business offerings of the ACC would be ideal to educate these persons to take advantage of such, depending on the scale of their operations and the specific rules of the special economic zones regime. The new focus on food security calls for a renewed emphasis on agriculture and fishing, which in turn necessitates a return to the land and the sea. If this is the paradigm to be, then the ACC could or must seek to work with farmers and fishermen and women to learn basic skills related to management of their farms and fishing businesses, especially if financing will be required for expansion in the future. I would encourage the ACC to reach out to the newly empowered Angola Farmers Association and fisherfolk community to seek ways in which its offerings and programs could be of assistance in the efforts of these local Anguillians. If the long-touted development of Angola's 200 miles of nautical waters to the north is to be more than campaign rhetoric every 5 years followed by inactivity until the next election, but instead a reality, then the ACC ought to play a role by equipping the players in these areas. Since this is a brief presentation, and I'm sure my time will soon be up, I end by saying that if education is the vehicle that will transform Anguilla, then the ACC has to be its engine, or an integral part of said engine, by training and assisting those in need of upskilling and playing its role as an incubator of learning, a center of excellence, and a net contributor to the national development. Thank you for listening, and good evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rogers. By the way, Mr. President, my degree is in history. So if you need someone to teach the course, I'm right here. Anyways, at this moment, we'll have some questions from the audience. So if you have any question you would like to ask the presenters, I will come around with the mic and you can ask them. Anyone? Okay, so I have a question. Mr. Hamilton, you shared that the ACC provides the community with employability skills. So can you guys share some of these employability skills that the young people can benefit from? Thank you.
Some of the employability skills that you can obtain from the college. Now, it is necessary for individuals when they go to get a job that they present themselves properly. All right, because there's a saying, say that the first appearance, your first impression counts, and therefore, I know there are programs through the Department of DYC and one of those programs where they encourage students or they prepare the students to dress properly, to carry themselves in a way that they can better sell themselves for the employment that they are seeking. They also, the necessary skills, how to prepare the correct, your resume, so to speak, or your bio, whatever you need to present your qualifications to the job force. There are programs that assist you in doing that and how to write that letter for the job and all those kind of stuff. So the ACC has that program to introduce students to that opportunity.
My question is that what are your expectations of the new school that's being built?
Two. Anybody?
Well, one thing I can tell you that giving birth is not an easy task.
Congratulations.
And if I were to tell you the story of how we got that long path, you will not know, except to say one Tuesday morning when it was raining and the opportunity came, that land came our way, and I took advantage of it. I won't say any more than that. We expect the college to start off strongly by getting the technical and vocational courses and lay the foundation. And we expect it to partnership with the community so that it can address the community work needs and skill needs at the same time. So it will be skills driven, working closely with the TVET Council. That's obviously one part of it. But as it goes over the years, I expect it to do a number of other things. I expect it to create a culture where people want to take courses from the point of view of extramural courses, just to get personal growth and development. Not every qualification is about getting a job only. You want to get some courses for personal growth and development. Because after your grandchildren are growing up, many places want to grow up with their grandchildren. And they are going to need some of the skills to catch up with their grandchildren. So offering computing courses in the evenings and weekends, or even after church on Sunday, developing a baking program where people can come and learn to bake and so forth and so forth. These are some of the things which are relevant to people's skills. A group of ladies would like together to make lemon meringue pie. So for example, so you could do those kind of courses. And then as a bridge through linkages for those who want to go elsewhere. One of the beauty you saw, the example I saw from Ms. Telemark, is if you get a good foundation here, which is strong, you are able to go there, elsewhere, abroad and elsewhere, and make up in a relatively short period of time with a good skill set and graduate in record time. You go there the second semester sophomore, then you become a junior, and then finally you go through the hoops. And although it may look costly at the beginning, if you make the dean's list early enough, half your funding is taken care of later on down the line. And you can do that. But you have to have this strong foundation right here in Anguilla.
My expectations are much more limited. I just expect it to be built.
Well, he should know of all persons because he was a member of the first board and continued, and a very diligent member of the first board, so you should know. But it will. Giving and getting and finding funds and so forth, it will build. I talked earlier about giving and so on. We have to dig deeper in our pockets and so forth. And we have not used our diaspora community very well. The community in Slough in England, in Manchester and Bristol, the community in New York, except for Appany, the communities in Toronto and so on. We need to call upon our diaspora community to give more. And the trick about giving more in North America is instead of giving it to Uncle Sam, you are giving it to Anguilla because you get the tax write-off. So you are paying less tax to Uncle Sam, and the money comes down here to build a community college. I mean, what kind of better offer that is than that? And also, many of us whom the Lord has blessed have just got to give a bit more.
Well, my expectation of the college is to create that culture so that the Anguilla Community College become a household name. Where you're going tonight, down by the community college, you understand? I want to create I would like to see a culture develop where persons are looking forward to going to the college, get that education, and building that solid foundation that Professor Loudon spoke about just now.
Yes, thanks.
And can I say something
Yes.
before we begin? One of the beauty of a community college, one of the most beautiful things about community college, it's a leveler. It means that the carpenter's son, the fisherman, can start and lay a foundation and make something of themselves over a period of time. So irrespective of your background, if you don't have a distinguished family name, you too can make something of yourself. And there is nothing better than that.
Yes, I must say thanks to Professor Loudon and other panelists for what was said tonight, and particularly now as we are saying the expectations, what we expect of the college. I happen to be a proud graduate of the Montfortune Technical College in St. Lucia. And this year will be exactly 45 years since I've been back. And sometimes I say 45 years, and people like me and some others, about 12 of us, who had the opportunity again through linkages. Some went Antigua, some went St. Lucia, some went all over the place, okay? And tonight, it is such a delight to see so many of you students in your orange, okay? And my support for the college has been, after I retired in 2008, 50 plus, I went at the college with Mr. Hammond. We did events planning, supervisory management, customer service. All these were the things that I would have done in the 70s, 80s, that I went at a college to review and to be in the company of the younger persons who I would have taught at a school, at a high school, and wherever else, as an encouragement, because education is a lifelong process. And here what we had to do, I had a child when I went to college, okay? And that time it wasn't when you could have pick up a phone. By the time your mother comes to say that the child had diarrhea, and the child had this, the child had that, the child unwell. Okay? So this is an opportunity now for you all to go on to the community college. Even if I have to come in the parking lot and hold the baby for you while you're in the class, I will do that. I used to be a welfare officer too, because the technical skills that I learned in the vocational technical training in St. Lucia has equipped me for everything. I've had 11 jobs in the public service. Somebody wasn't here today, them say, send us still over there. And I still went. You were getting the same pay. Okay? So I want to see every one of us. Mr. Loudon spoke about sitting guilds. The sitting guilds exam was going on ever since in the 70s when we were in St. Lucia. The guys, I won't call names, who went down there, they did the mechanics and whatever have you. Okay? And now as we spoke about the fishing, I've seen young boys when they, I was the school welfare officer too, when you're supposed to go, Mr. Pickering too, where you had to go to look for the children when they don't come to school. And when I go and I meet these boys up on Smithy Bay, fixing fish pots. Yeah, you know, Smithy Bay was a leading place, right? Fishing pots. And yesterday I buy fish from these boys. Instead of harassing them about they wasn't coming to school, everybody will not.
be able to master them books, okay, but the skills. Thank you. And we must give Professor Loudon kudos, because even though some governments would have been interested, and then, we had coalition governments, what wasn't really an interest wasn't an interest and whatnot. So we must say kudos to Mr. Loudon, who come here, and whoever he had team up with, make it happen. So I can sleep now knowing that we have a community college, and it's going to be built up there where the shell factory was. Because that was just there like to rattling down. So Mr. Loudon, again, thanks for whoever helped you to get that off the ground. And I think I say my piece.
Good night, everyone. My name is Lucy Mendes, currently a student at the ACC. I love being a student of the Anguilla Community College. Right now, we have a lot of students, actually, in very small classrooms. We indeed want to learn, and it would be greatly appreciated if we actually get some funding from the government, if we actually try to do some, fundraisers to actually contribute towards the infrastructure of our college. It would be very much appreciated. Also, after these amazing presentations, the Anguilla Community College is indeed a bridge to opportunities. So I would also like to, ask for some advice, as in which qualifications a student must possess in order to gain a scholarship. And 3 of you can respond to that.
I think you should answer this question, Michelle. Michelle, you should answer that question.
Because I want to be performances.
Well, while Michelle, the dean is thinking about how she's going to answer, I will say one thing, and it's important. Politicians don't tell you this, but the premier is here, so I'm going to tell you this right now. Governments can't do everything. The idea that everything we have to go to the government, we must realize it's not possible. What you can do and your group of your family is to create a family foundation or a family, those in England, those in Toronto, those in New York, or elsewhere, and put together a sum of money. Ask them that, in the case of those from New York, APAN is there, the Anguilla Progressive Association of New York. It meets for a big function in June every year in Queens, New York. Say to them that we would like to do something. What contribution can you make to Anguilla Community College? We as student, our student council member, wishes to do A, B, C, and D, and we need these funds. Can you hold a fundraiser in your church in Slough or in your village elsewhere and begin to help us to raise some of the funds? But at the same time, ensure in that letter that you are also raising something. Don't depend on them to just come and hand you a check. But say to them, to your group, to your church group, or other fellowship groups you belong to, can you help us back home in raising some of the funds to do some of the things we would like to do? And for example, we will match it. If you came to me tomorrow and say, we want to do this, it's $100, or $200 or $300 or $400, and we have raised this, I'll match it tomorrow. I'll match it tomorrow. Yeah.
We're going to hold him to
I'll
that.
match it. So you come with your part and you say to those relatives, that piece of land which you have in Anguilla and you have not used for 20, 30 years, put it in a trust and give it to the college. What's stopping me from doing it? What's stopping the college from owning a piece of property? By the time you own 5 or 6 pieces of property, you can begin to bargain with it. Say to them to give it to you. Or leave something in a will. Or leave something in a trust fund. Because as I said, that even if they take it, they're not taking the land title in their casket. So don't worry about that. But ask No. But ask people to do some of these things. Insurance policy, some of them have for years, they're not using it at all. Hand it over to the college. And begin to do that. So when you go to the minister and he or she is saying, well, you're coming again, you can say, but yes, this time, this is what I'm coming with. Seriously. Because the larger groups, if you look at Israel, Jerusalem, University of Jerusalem, it wasn't built by the government of Israel. It's the diaspora community. The diaspora community started raising the funds and begin to meet. And the diaspora community could come down. You could do a tour with your dean of the community college and say, these are our needs. How about naming something the Richardson Building or the Richardson Lecture Series or the Brooks Lecture Series or the Gum so-and-so? What's stopping us from doing those things? They're all available to us. And the new building, when it's going up, all those blocks, they should carry endowments. Everybody would want to see their names on that. There are a couple of people who passed away, two in particular. We were very close to getting the established endowment for. I had done all the paperwork, we had done everything, and we were very, very far advanced. Alas, they passed. But those are some of the things we can do. And we must build a college. There's no question at all about it. If we don't do that, posterity will judge us badly. You know, they have a series in England in those early days when I was a student. It called, What Did You Do in the Great War, Daddy? And they were, what did we do whilst we were here? What have we created for the next generation of young persons?
I would like to encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity that Professor Loudon would have just put on the table. He said that he would match it. When I hear match things, I get excited, I get motivated. But you cannot do it individually. Work amongst yourself, get the student council at the college. You need somebody to be a president, you need a group, you all get together, form the group, represent everybody, speak as a group, and raise funds as a group, and let Professor Loudon match what you raise. Let him match what you raise. If you need my help, I would help you. I will come and help you so that you can get, because that is what the community college is about. Everybody working hand in hand together to accomplishing one goal. And yes, the assets we have, we cannot go with it. So therefore, we need to definitely share it with persons who can benefit.
Yeah, and giving is such a great pleasure, you know. When you start giving, you really feel a sense. Like, although we were establishing the scholarship here for my old man and the old lady, my mom, we were one of 9 boys, and my old lady wanted to be a nurse. But she couldn't become a nurse with 9 boys to look after. So we decided very clearly, my brothers and all of us decided, that in Jamaica, we created Ermine Loudon Scholarship Fund to the Council of Community College of Jamaica. And we give $1,500 US every year to a student in nursing doing the baccalaureate in nursing who wants to become and do public health nursing. And we did that. And I will give because I suddenly realized how much giving is important in families and trusts and so forth, how much important is give. And I did the same thing because, you know, I'm getting old. So we were married a long time when we were a student. And then when we turned, when it was our 50th wedding anniversary, I decided, well, let's establish an endowment fund through African Caribbean Cancer Consortium for a scholarship fund. And we put a scholarship in place for Mrs. Loudon. She comes from Sandy Ground. And we put a scholarship, and the scholarship is there. So you have to give back. And I said to my children, my business is to school them. They have finished their education. What else am I owing them? You know. And particularly with COVID, you can't travel and spend all that money you have anyway. So you might have. And all your plans for 10,000 per year for travel, this one, is standing there idle, and you need your education. Eh?
So basically, you're telling me that in order for us to get the community college developed a bit more, we need to actually work together, right? So if we do that, would you guys be compromised to actually help us? That's the question. Because we indeed, as students, can actually come forward and try something. But in order for that to actually come true and happen and be a reality as to right now, that we need it right now, would 3 of you and the rest in this room actually assist and be compromised to help us, to give 100% to make it happen? Because we need it now. As in, you said we give, we get, and we give. So we'd like to know, if we actually come forward with a proposal, would it be supported by the rest of people in this room?
Yes.
You're compromising yourselves. It's on camera. So yeah, I would like to get the answer for my other question, which was, which qualifications or requirements would I or my colleagues would need in order to gain a scholarship?
Well, you have to get good grades. But in addition to good grade, you have to be a good all-rounder. We want someone who is given community service, who has served other people other than themselves. I mean, we don't want to create the Trumpian type of narcissism again. I mean, we don't want that kind of thing. So I would like to take a good, like for example, the scholarship from my mom. We ask that the pastor writes a letter, for example, and say what kind of student you were. Were you a studious? Were you considerate to others other than yourself? Have you been involved in the community? What leadership role you have taken and so forth. And a series of criteria. And then we take those forward and interview you accordingly.
Thank you very much. I sat here and I didn't want to make any comment whatsoever, but I heard your questions, or rather in terms of scholarship. And it's good. Let me first of all make it clear that education is not an expense, it's an investment. We need to understand that.
That's right.
And I hear Professor Louding speaking about givings. I think that within small island states, we have not been abreast or apprised of, or we are not really involved in endowments, etc. Basically because governments give no incentives for us to do that. You heard Professor Louding speak of the fact that Uncle Sam, he's talking about the US government, where if he gives, then tax breaks are being given. Donald Trump, as we know, it is being said he paid what, $750 in taxes after making millions of dollars, because he also gave to associations and organizations. And I think that it's important that we understand that governments need to provide incentives for persons, and then you would see more givings. When you look at education throughout the Caribbean region, starting in Jamaica, where we had the first university actually, I think in Jamaica, tertiary education coming out of Barbados, Trinidad, and those islands. It was tough. It was hard. Decisions had to be made, and I think that more persons here know the history, and I think Professor Louding can give us more history, because he in Jamaica, he know how much mash-up and how many people got killed in Jamaica when University of London, I think that was one of the first institutions when we were moving tertiary education in Jamaica, etc. It was hard for us. And so what I want to say to you who are pressing for scholarships, I want to say something, and I find it to be true, that a lot of us who have been given scholarships don't really make proper use of it. Sometimes it's best that you spend your own money, you more have value for that. And I've seen it so very often. And I share a story with you, that when I myself went off to university, I had no scholarship from any government. I've often said to my children, I will not have them have any scholarship from any government. I think it's my duty as a parent, and if I'm not, that they will go ahead and do that. But I went away to study with $300 in my pocket to do a $60,000 course. I did tourism, I did hotel administration and tourism at Chicago State University. And so basically, I plodded my way, and as I gave, the university saw what I was doing. They looked at my grades, etc. And in my last year, I think 2 years, I got a scholarship. Sometimes what you got to do is to demonstrate your zeal. And as you do that, the university or the college see your effort and your zeal. You don't have to be an extraordinary student per se. Just buckle down yourself, study hard. I never consider myself as being brilliant, but I studied hard. Study hard. There are some people who will not study, but they're A. You may not be that way. You may have to study hard to be in the A bracket. But push and develop yourself. And as faculty see your potential and where you're moving, they can make recommendations and scholarships can come into play. But don't let that be prime. Push yourself forward. Remember, education is an investment.
Okay, thank you all very much. We'll take one more question from the audience. We need to wrap up.
I think Professor Loudon tonight haven't spoken much about the part that the Anguilla Chamber of Commerce have played in the early development of the college. The business community. I think when that challenge came to the Chamber of Commerce, we were able to get the business community together, and we organized 2 annual events that brought money into the college. What I would advise going forward is that the present president and maybe the student council talk with the Anguilla Chamber of Commerce, get with them, sit down, organize the business community to come together, and then put on events, annual events that can help to sustain what you need.
Good evening. Mr. Rogers, you mentioned in your speech that the Anguilla Community College should also look at other areas or industries that we can develop. So my question is, what are some other areas or industries that we can begin to provide training in outside of tourism?
Thank you. Well, I think I specifically mentioned with the new emphasis on food security, issues of farming and fishing need to be brought to the fore in terms of the role that ACC plays in Anguilla. I'm not making a plug for any particular government or politician, but the new Minister of Natural Resources, Mr. Kyle Hodge, seems to be interested, or at least he says so, and we'd see what he actually does. So that is definitely an area, because if fishing is to be developed commercially, the skill sets of the fishermen must not only lie in issues of how to make a fish pot and set it and all of those things, but also some management and business skills will have to come into the fore. The same applies to farming on any major scale. So I think those are areas definitely the ACC need to look at in terms of providing training and assistance for. Thank you.
Yeah. And then don't forget that when you invite faculty from abroad or elsewhere, one of the things we did with the Lincoln Agreement, which Ms. Telemark benefited from, the young lady who we worked with in Lincoln was a civil engineer. And she came, she brought a couple of staff with her, and they wanted to engage with the water salination plant to begin to do some development and growth. So some of the things you can bring through bringing the linkages you bring in and they can expand the breadth and, through the linkages which they will establish for you.
Good night. Thank you all, gentlemen. You were really exciting and focused. Is it on? Yes, it is. Yes, I really appreciate all of you and your thoughts. I want to add that the college is starting a strategic plan currently. We just launched the first step of it. We have some students who are here who actually started to give input already. And I want to encourage you to be available for input further, because we want to ensure that we practice what we're talking about in terms of your college, our community. That is really important. So we intend to hear from you quite a bit. So stay tuned. We are also looking at launching some fully online courses and blended courses in the spring, so that some Anguillans who might not be able to get out to the college physically can actually start courses wherever they're at. And you also want to go beyond Anguilla. So those things are coming. I would like to also say to the young lady who asked about scholarships, we have been thinking about ways to encourage students in terms of their academics. But one criteria that we are looking at constantly is need. We want to ensure that we have the college being accessible to people who might not be able to afford it, but really want to come. So that's one of the criteria. But I cannot underscore enough the importance of diligence and hard work and perseverance. I was actually a student at Columbia University when, at the end of my first semester, a professor came to me and said, "You have a scholarship." Just came to me in the class and said that. And that came from turning up every day, working hard, aiming for A+s, and never giving up. Sometimes I think that IQ is overemphasized. I would like to say determination. When you put your hand to the plow, never turn back. Once you start to do your work, you continue to do it and aim for the best. Because something value added. Sometimes we have students who turn up, who are doing B+ and stay at B+. When you move from your B+ to the next level, people take notice. So I will say to you, continue to work hard, be diligent, and you will get your reward. I actually went to a community college. Then I went to UWI. I bridged both. And continue to see yourself as you shall be and what you want to be, and not only as you are. You will achieve great things if you continue to keep focus and don't give up. Perseverance. Okay?
Thank you, everyone, for being such a wonderful audience tonight. If we were listening keenly, we would like to thank Dr. Loudon for explaining the birthing process of the ACC to us tonight. Mr. Hamilton, thank you for your insight and your encouragement to encourage other persons to join ACC, and for shedding some light on the importance of the college and letting us know that ACC is for everyone. And to you, Mr. Rogers, we see from your presentation that the college is well poised and positioned to serve as an incubator of ideas to develop the non-traditional student, as you rightfully stated in your address this evening. Again, I'd like to ask everyone to join me in thanking a very appreciative and brilliant panel this evening. I'd like to now call on Dr. Quilly to give us the vote of thanks. After the vote of thanks, the college has so wonderfully provided us with some refreshments across this room over into to the other building in the Sir Optimus Hall.
Good evening. Good evening to everyone. I think Twyla has, sure. I think Twyla has said at least half of the vote of thanks, but I just wish to add my own commendation to all of the presenters. I quite agree with Twyla that they were brilliant and they did have a lot of ideas and they have given us food for thought, a lot to walk away with and examine in terms of us going forward. So thank you very much to all of you. We also want to thank a number of persons who have worked behind the scenes. Several persons made donations to us by way of cash, even a word of encouragement when we were, sometimes wondering where to go, how to go about it, and so forth. So my very able staff or faculty, the academics division, thank you so much. I wish to also thank Gaff. When I called Gaff, he was at the ready to give us that assistance. And Gaff, he's a staple when it comes to live presentations and the audio and so forth. So I'm going to ask you to give Gaff a round of applause. Gaff, and I see he has an assistant, Vanisha. Give her a little round of applause as well. Other persons, I see Thoughtful is here. I'm going to ask you to give them a round of applause. That's our marketing agency. Ariel, of course, doing her photography and other things. We do appreciate it. Mr. Pickering. Mr. Pickering, thank you so much for coming and also giving us live coverage, is it? Wow. Our government officials who saw it fit to be here with us, we really appreciate your coming. The Honorable Premier and our Minister of Education, Deanne. Thank you so much. And I hope that you have, not just listened, but the writing pad was out and taking the notes because you bet we are going to come and have several conversations with you about the ACC. We are passionate about going forward. And I can see your commitment by way of a nod. I want to see greater commitment by way of the dollars. Thank you so much. And we have the chairperson of the Board of Governors, Dr. Ronald Harrigan. For those of you who don't know him, thank you so much. I know there were other persons here from the board. I saw Ms. Kubish Vanterpool earlier. She left. But for all of you who saw it fit to come out and give us that support, it means a lot to us. Thank you so much for coming. And to our listening and viewing audience, we are saying thanks to you as well. I see my very good friend and energizer buddy, Dr. Fleming Banks from UE. And we are so happy to have you here, Dr. Banks. Thank you so much. So thank you very much. This is my student. I always make use of any opportunity to big up my students because they represent me. So thank you so much to Twyla for an excellent job in chairing tonight's proceedings. Thank you so much. Neil, right. Oh my gosh. Neil, another student of mine. Neil, yes. He was so willing when I asked him to assist Twyla, co-chair, and here he was, did such a fine job. And by the way, Neil is the lead person for our hike on Saturday. So I'm going to use that opportunity to ask you, to encourage you to join us on the hike Saturday morning, 5:30 a.m. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, thank you, thank you. Becky? Yes, don't call your name, Becky, yes. You did an excellent job with delivering the national song. We love that voice. Becky keeps saying she doesn't sing the national song. Well, suppose she didn't sing it. Or suppose she never really used to sing it. Thank you so much, Becky. Just a reminder that we do have some light refreshments at the Seroptimist Center, so you are invited too. All of the students who prepared, Karima and her team, they have very nice things for you to eat. So you are encouraged to go out and party. Thank you so much again, everyone.